1 week ago, I was supposed to be standing at an altar, saying I do. Instead, I woke up to an empty apartment, an even emptier joint wedding account, and a fiancé who had vanished like smoke. My immediate response, after the initial shockwave, was to text her mother. Congrats on raising a thief. Then I called the cops. Before I dive into the absolute circus that followed, if you appreciate stories where betrayal meets cold, hard consequences, make sure you subscribe. This isn't a fairy tale. My name is Ethan. I'm 33. Last Saturday, the day that was supposed to be my wedding, I discovered Maya, my fiancée of 5 years, was gone. And so was the $40,000 we'd saved in our joint wedding account. About $30,000 of that was from a significant work bonus I'd received specifically for this. No note, no call, no tearful, "It's not you, it's me." Just poof. Her clothes, her passport, everything. Like she'd never even been a part of my life. We've been planning this wedding for the last year. Every deposit for the wedding planner, the reception hall, the photographer, paid from that account. My first call, after the initial numbness wore off, and believe me, that took a few hours of pacing my apartment like a caged lion, was to her parents. Her mom, Eleanor, answered, all cheerful. "Eleanor," I said, my voice flat, devoid of any emotion I could muster. "Maya's gone. So is the wedding money." Silence. Then a sort of fluttering, nervous laugh. "Oh, Ethan, you jokers. She's probably just got pre-wedding nerves. Out with her sister, Sophie, probably." "No," I said, cutting through her forced optimism. "Sophie's called me twice already, wondering where Maya is. She's not with her. The account is empty, Eleanor. Her stuff is gone from our apartment." The denial from her was thick. "Maya wouldn't do that. There must be a mistake. You probably misplaced the money, or she's using it for a last-minute wedding surprise." "A surprise?" "Right." "Eleanor," I stated, "she took everything. It's theft." That's when her tone shifted dramatically. "Now, Ethan, don't you dare accuse my daughter. She's a good girl. Maybe she just realized she couldn't go through with it and needed some space. The money? Well, weddings are expensive. Maybe she felt she was owed some of it for her time." For her time. I almost choked on the audacity. That's when I hung up and sent that text. Congrats on raising a thief. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying in that moment of raw anger? Absolutely. Then I called the police, filed a report. Fraud, grand larceny, whatever they could make stick. I provided bank statements showing the joint account and the withdrawals, screenshots of texts where Maya and I discussed wedding expenses coming from that specific account, and vendor contracts. They were surprisingly understanding. Detective Ramsey listened patiently, took meticulous notes, and said they'd look into it immediately. Next, I started the painful process of calling all the vendors. Explained the situation. Lost most of the deposits, obviously. The caterer was surprisingly decent about it. The florist, too. The reception hall, not so much. But that's just money. It can be remade. The betrayal, the calculated deceit, that's the kicker. I think I slept about 2 hours that first night. The next day, Detective Ramsey called. They'd flagged Maya's name at the airports. Turns out, she'd booked a one-way ticket to a coastal city a few states over. A week prior. A whole week. She was planning this meticulous escape while we were tasting cake samples and finalizing seating charts. The cold-blooded nature of it just stunned me. Okay, so about 4 days after that initial shock, just as I was starting to process the sheer scale of her deception, Detective Ramsey calls me again. "Mr. Hayes," he says, "we located Ms. Thorne. She was less than cooperative. We've placed her under arrest based on the evidence you provided. She's currently being processed." Arrested. Wow. Even though I'd set the wheels in motion, even though I wanted her caught, hearing those words was still a jolt. A weird, complicated mix of profound relief and something else. Sadness, maybe? Sadness for the version of me who was so excited to marry her just a few weeks ago. Yeah, that guy was a complete idiot. The arrest happened in another state, so I knew there'd be a whole extradition process, but the charges were serious. Fraud involving over $10,000 is no joke. Then, as expected, the calls started. First, Eleanor, Maya's mom, absolutely screaming, a full-on banshee wail into the phone. How could you do this to her? She made a mistake, a youthful indiscretion. You're ruining her life over some money. You have a good job. You can make it back. Eleanor, I said, my voice weary but firm, she stole $30,000 of my money, plus her share of the wedding fund. That's not an indiscretion. It's a felony. She planned it meticulously. She could have talked to me. She could have just walked away. She chose to steal. She was scared, Eleanor shrieked. You pressured her into this wedding. Complete and utter bullshot. Maya picked the DN venue and 90% of the decor. You need to drop the charges, Ethan. We'll pay you back. Some of it. When we can. Some of it? When you can? I was incredulous. No, Eleanor. This is in the hands of the police now. She needs to face the consequences. I hung up. Then Sophie, her sister, called. More reasonable, her tone softer, but still pushing the same agenda. Ethan, I had no idea. I swear. This isn't like her. But prison. Really? Can't you just settle this? She's terrified. Mom and Dad are a mess. Sophie, I said, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. She had my number. She could have called me at any point. She chose to run and hide after emptying our account. What would you have me do? I don't know. But she's my sister. Please, there must be another way. The other way, I stated, my patience wearing thin, was for her not to steal a life-altering amount of money from me the day before our wedding. Tell her to get a good lawyer. And apparently, she did. Or rather, her parents did. Yesterday, I got a call. Blocked number. I answered it warily. Mr. Hayes, this is Richard Stone, Maya's father, and Mr. Bellwether, our attorney, is on the line with us. Oh, goody. A conference call. Mr. Bellwether, with his slick, smooth lawyer voice, starts in. Mr. Hayes, we understand you're upset. Maya understands she made a significant error in judgment. An error in judgment? I almost laughed. She committed a felony, Mr. Bellwether. Yes, well, semantics, he said dismissively. The point is, Maya is willing to make amends. We're prepared to offer a settlement. Return of a portion of the funds, say $20,000, in exchange for you petitioning the DA to drop all charges. I actually did laugh then. A short, sharp, humorless sound. A portion? 20 grand? After she gets arrested, you suddenly find some of the money? No, absolutely not. And it's not up to me to petition the DA. She's been arrested. The state is pressing charges based on felony theft and fraud. Richard Stone, Maya's father, chimed in then, his voice tight with suppressed anger. My boy, be reasonable. She's a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. A criminal record will destroy her future. Don't you have any compassion? Compassion? I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. Did she have any compassion when she cleaned out our joint account and left me to pick up the pieces of our shattered wedding? When she booked a one-way flight while telling me she loved me? My compassion, Mr. Stone, ran out somewhere between discovering the empty bank account and canceling the damn caterers. Mr. Bellwether, ever smooth, tried again. Mr. Hayes, a trial will be messy, public. Your personal life dragged through the mud. Maya will testify she felt coerced, that the wedding was all your idea, that she panicked. Let her, I said, my voice like ice. I have every text message, every email, every receipt showing our joint planning, her excitement. I have the date she bought her plane ticket. Her panic seems to have been remarkably well orchestrated. This isn't a negotiation, gentlemen. The $40,000 was supposed to be for a wedding. Now it's evidence in a criminal case. Any further discussion can happen between you and Detective Ramsey or the DA's office. I hung up. My heart was hammering in my chest. The sheer, unmitigated audacity. Error in judgment. Coerced. Unbelievable. Then Eleanor again, this time crying. Not angry, just pathetic. Ethan, please! She'll pay it all back. We'll take out a loan. Just make them let her go. She's not built for jail. It'll break her. She should have thought of that before she became a thief, Eleanor. Click. Now my phone is blowing up with calls from Mr. Bellwether. He's left 3 voicemails today, each one a little more frantic than the last. Mr. Hayes, please call me back. We need to discuss this. We can improve our offer. My client is very distressed. Yeah, I bet she is. Turns out consequences are a real, tangible thing. Let him sweat. I'm meeting with the Assistant DA, Ms. Keller, next week to give a full victim impact statement. I am not backing down an inch. She made her bed. Now she can lie in it, preferably in a cell, for a good long while. And it's been a wild month since my last update. The entitlement from Maya's camp, it just kept on giving. It's almost impressive, in a deeply sickening way. So after Mr. Bellwether's frantic calls, which I completely ignored and simply directed to Ms. Keller, the ADA handling the case, things got creative on their end. First, Sophie, the sister, shows up at my apartment, unannounced, rings the bell like she's here for afternoon tea. Ethan, we need to talk, she says, all earnest and wide-eyed. Sophie, I said, not opening the door more than a crack, I'm talking to the DA. That's who Maya's lawyer should be talking to. No, we need to talk as people who both care about Maya. She actually tried to push past me into my apartment. I blocked her path firmly. She's not eating. She's a wreck. Her lawyer says you're being vindictive, that you're enjoying this. Enjoying this? I repeated, incredulous. My life got blown up, Sophie. I lost a huge sum of money. My fiancé turned out to be a calculating criminal, and I had to cancel my own wedding the day it was supposed to happen. Yeah, this is a real barrel of laughs. Now, if you'll excuse me. Then she tries the guilt trip. You know, Mom and Dad are talking about selling their house to pay you back and for Maya's legal fees. You'd make them homeless just for revenge. They're considering selling their house because their daughter stole $40,000 and got caught, Sophie. That's on Maya, not me. I closed the door. I heard her huffing outside for a bit before she finally left. Then, suddenly, vague posts started appearing on social media from distant friends of Maya, talking about toxic relationships and men who try to control women with money, and how sometimes a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do to escape. Real subtle. Some even used a hashtag with my first name. My more tech-savvy friends tracked a couple of the original posts back to IP addresses near Maya's parents' place in their town of Oakhaven. Cute! I screenshotted everything, naturally, and sent it straight to Ms. Keller. Not illegal, no, but it definitely shows a pattern of trying to paint Maya as the victim. Mr. Bellwether, Maya's lawyer, apparently decided that since I wasn't budging, he'd try to pressure the ADA. He sent Ms. Keller a massive file, full of letters from Maya's family and friends, gushing about her fragile mental state, her supposed history of anxiety. Funny, I never saw a day of it in 5 years, and how this uncharacteristic lapse in judgment was due to immense pre-wedding stress. They even got a therapist who'd spoken to Maya twice after her arrest to write a letter suggesting she wasn't in her right mind when she planned her escape and theft. Ms. Keller, a no-nonsense woman I've come to deeply respect, called me. Ethan, she said, they're trying to paint you as the bad guy and her as a damsel in distress who just snapped. Her lawyer is pushing hard for a plea deal, restitution of the full $40,000 and probation, no jail time. He's citing her previous good character and emotional duress. Restitution and probation. After all this, after the meticulous planning, the deceit, the sheer gall of it all. Ms. Keller, I said, keeping my voice as steady as I could, she didn't just snap. She booked a plane ticket a week in advance. She systematically drained a joint account, most of which was my money. She ghosted me on our wedding day. Then her family and lawyer tried to bully and manipulate me into dropping it. This wasn't a panic attack, Ms. Keller. It was a plan. And frankly, if she's so fragile, maybe she shouldn't have committed a felony. I told her about Sophie showing up at my door, about the thinly veiled social media campaign. This isn't remorse, Ms. Keller. This is damage control, because she got caught. Ms. Keller was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I appreciate your perspective, Ethan, and your continued willingness to testify if it comes to that. So the revenge, if you want to call it that, it wasn't one big dramatic movie moment. It was me, calmly working with Ms. Keller. I provided every piece of evidence again: the timeline of the ticket purchase versus our wedding planning activities, bank statements showing the systematic withdrawals, vendor contracts with both our names on them, texts where Maya was excitedly discussing the honeymoon we were supposedly going to take to Santorini. The key was the clear, undeniable premeditation. Ms. Keller used it beautifully. The settlement conference, which was really a plea negotiation, happened not last week. I wasn't there, but Ms. Keller called me right after. Apparently, Mr. Bellwether came in confident, with Eleanor and Richard Stone in tow for moral support, all ready to argue for probation. Ms. Keller laid out the state's case, highlighting the premeditated nature of the theft, the significant amount of money involved, the profound breach of trust, and then the pièce de résistance. She brought up their attempts to intimidate me and manipulate the narrative after the arrest. She mentioned the social media campaign, however amateur. She mentioned Sophie showing up at my apartment uninvited. She basically painted a clear picture of a family that enables and excuses criminal behavior and then tries to bully the victim into silence. The judge, from what Ms. Keller said, was not amused by Team Maya, especially when Mr. Bellwether tried to argue that my texting "congrats on raising a thief" to Eleanor was undue provocation. The judge apparently raised an eyebrow and dryly asked, "Provocation for what, Mr. Bellwether? For Ms. Thorne to commit grand larceny before the text was even sent?" Faced with the overwhelming strength of the evidence and the judge's clear lack of sympathy for their sob story, Maya had a choice: go to trial and almost certainly get a much harsher sentence, or take the plea deal Ms. Keller offered. A deal that was significantly harsher than what they desperately hoped for. The deal? Plead guilty to felony fraud. Full restitution of the $40,000 paid before sentencing. Suddenly, Eleanor and Richard were scrambling to find the money, which they did, miraculously, within 48 hours. Guess the idea of selling their house got very real. Very fast. 60 days in county jail. Not state prison, but definitely not probation either. And 3 years of formal probation upon release with strict conditions, including mandatory employment and financial counseling, plus a permanent felony record. Maya took the deal. Crying, apparently. Her parents were furious, beside themselves, but Mr. Bellwether, to his credit, finally advised her it was the absolute best she was going to get. Ms. Keller said to me, "The jail time is important, Ethan. It shows this kind of calculated betrayal has serious consequences. And the felony conviction? That will follow her. That's justice." And you know what? It is. She won't just waltz away from this. Every job application, every apartment rental, every background check, that felony is going to be there. She wanted to start a new life with my money. Well, she's starting a new life, all right. Just not the glamorous, carefree one she envisioned. Eleanor called me one last time after the plea. Left a voicemail, just sobbing. "You destroyed her. I hope you're happy." Am I happy? Not happy like woohoo party. More like a quiet, grim satisfaction. Like a tremendous weight has finally been lifted. I stood my ground. I didn't let them bully me. And the system, for once, actually worked. She didn't get away with it. They thought they could play dirty, manipulate, and I'd just fold. They severely underestimated how stubborn I can be when I've been monumentally screwed over. I'm out the money temporarily, but the court-ordered restitution is already in an escrow account, so I'll get that back soon enough. The emotional toll? Yeah, that'll take longer to fully heal. But knowing Maya is actually facing real, tangible consequences for her actions, knowing her family's aggressive entitlement slammed face first into a brick wall of reality, that feels like justice. A very satisfying, very real kind of justice. Time to finally move on. Maybe get a dog. Dogs are loyal.